The World Bank states between March and September of 2020, official statistics reported an increase in the national poverty rate from 9.78% to 10.19%, translating to an increase in the number of poor from 26 million to 27 million in Indonesia alone, out of a population of 270 million people, turning back 3 years of progress in poverty reduction. And in this means that the rate of poverty is always increasing, and this makes it harder for people, especially in low-income places, to achieve their goals in basic hygiene or even in education. And this brings us to our first motion, that is, the House believes that scholarships should only be granted on the basis of financial necessity, and I, Darissa, as Prime Minister, will state my case. First of all, I would like to define scholarships. What is that exactly? A scholarship is an award of financial aid for a student to further their education at a private school, college, university, or other academic institutions. And of course, with the help of financial aid, this is something that is very appealing to a lot of people. And that is why it's something that people look for, because education is something that is progressively getting much more expensive. There are people who are willing to spend their life savings just to pursue education. They spend on textbooks, classes, and not to mention transportation costs to get to the department, such as schools or universities. And not to mention that, but also food, basic hygiene to take care of themselves, and also that's not even accounting for the need for entertainment so that they don't get stressed out and drop out of schools. And this brings us to the fact that in some places, such as America, tuition is very expensive. Tuition is very expensive, and even the University of Michigan Law School states and created an analysis about the burdens of educational loans, the impacts of debt on job choice and standards of living for students at 9 American schools. This means that they have stated their case that students have to pay tuition, and tuition costs sometimes an arm and a leg, and some students even drop out because they could not afford the education, and they have to get out because their family have needs in which they have to accomplish. And this brings us to our second argument about merit-based versus need-based scholarships. Merit-based scholarships are scholarships that are typically awarded on the basis of academic, athletic, and artistic merit. This scholarship's objective is on talent rather than financial aid. And this is not a necessarily bad thing. It's not an inherently bad thing, because they do have a real allure. They create incentives for children to exert more effort to learn in school rather than just to attend. And in Kenya, merit-based scholarships for primary school students led to learning gains even among children whose initial performances was so low that they had little chance of winning the scholarship. But then again, these scholarships are not technically something that is aimed at lower income people. They're more aimed on higher income students, and because of that, the students are more likely to go to school anyway. Furthermore, when merit-based scholarships do boost school completion among better off students, they can increase achievement gap between lower and higher income students. And it's not an inherently bad thing, but we can aim that money onto something else, such as need-based scholarships that are based on financial aid to the people who need it the most, and it doesn't discriminate by any factor apart from financial aid. This gives a chance for students and people to pursue education that they've always or something that they've only dreamed of, and they get the ability to use their time and abilities to the best. And this brings us to my third argument. Let's go back home and apply this to Indonesia, our country. Indonesia is the fourth most populated country in the whole world. This means that we are a subset of people that are diverse and multicultural. This means that there are probably a compilation of gifted students who will never get noticed or recognized. They will have their abilities hidden because they never get a chance to advance their intelligence, whether or not that it's in academia, such as science, mathematics, or language, or in the creative field like acting, dancing, and art itself, painting. Not only that, and there's also other fields like the field of sport. And this is not only that, but there is also an aspiring middle class community in Indonesia that is growing by the World Bank. States that these aspiring middle class people can afford food and basic hygiene and basic necessities, yet they can't provide their loved ones for healthcare, entertainment, and education. And yet again, they cannot even get help from the government because they are not poor enough, making life miserable for them, their family, and their community, and their environment. And that aims us to this motion of today, that the House believes that scholarships should only be granted on the basis of financial necessity. This is something that we can do actively to our country, Indonesia, that by having these scholarships that aim to help based on the basis of financial aid and necessity, this creates a space where not so lucky people get a chance to excel. These people would pursue their education and get better chances so that they can develop the ability to apply their experience learning into their communities. They can get the scholarship, they could go out and learn from a new environment where the people there are also learning the same thing and also growing together, and they can bring that home to their own communities. And with that, they can make themselves and the community a better functional member of society. And by this, these graduates can share and teach their skills, and it can reduce the gap in education between the lucky ones or the wealthy people and the not so lucky ones. And not to mention that, but there are also cases where parents that are wealthy parents would bribe the school department or the college department, giving a loan of money to the department for projects such as school building and environment, to have their children admissioned or get a scholarship based on merit. This is unfair to those who truly have a spark, yet are unable to achieve their goals because of shortage of money. And this is why I, as Prime Minister, agree that scholarships should only be granted on the basis of financial necessity. Thank you.